Hey everyone, welcome to What's the Story? My name is Janice Hermson and I am your host here with Doug Ashby today.
Yes.
We are minus Mr. Ed Knoll. He's still off helping his mom out, so
That's right.
we miss him, but
We do.
he's doing a good thing there. So
Yes, he is.
we're just gonna keep saying our prayers for his family, and hopefully things will work, and she'll be
Yeah.
on the mend soon.
You know, that's when you stop and think about it. Moms and dads are the people that you know in your life the longest.
It's true when you think about it.
Yeah. So that's really when something happens to them. That's
Yeah.
pretty monumental.
Well, you know, and he had said before he left, and actually weeks and weeks and weeks ahead, that if something were to happen, if anything ever were to happen, he was going to go and help his mom. And then next thing I knew, I was getting this phone call that said, I got to go help my mom. So he must have had some foresight, is what I
Yeah.
would say. So that he may not have shared.
Well,
So
does he have any long-term plans?
not right at the moment. Not right at the moment. At the moment, he's planning on coming back.
Oh, that's good.
Last time I spoke with him, he said that that was the plan.
Well, his brother is pretty much anchored here, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So, but doesn't he? Didn't you say he had a sister back there or something? No.
No, his aunt.
Aunt. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but yes, that's why we are minus our other co-host here. But Doug has plenty to cover for Ed. They just don't get to spar as often. That's
Well,
all.
you know, the thing of it is when you start reading about any subject, at least it happens to me, it always runs off into tangents.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to know.
It's called going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yep, going down the rabbit hole. That's what you're
Yep.
doing. So anyway, everyone, welcome. And as I said, this is What's the Story. We're here every week from 3 to 5 live streaming. And then our show replays between 7 and 9. And this is on Tuesday. And we're just glad when you join us. And we hope that you'll make comments when you have them. Drop us a note if you want to. We're happy to chat with you at any point in time. So in the meantime, we have a lot to cover today. I want to talk a little bit about two new shows that are launching on the LeRue Press Network. One is called It's About Accountability. We launched our first one of that and basically covered Devon Reese. He's a Reno councilman and some things that he's involved in with the ethics committee. So you might want to find It's About Accountability and listen to that. And then a fire chief that was not informed about a meeting, and he's the outgoing fire chief. And they were talking about combining fire departments, and they didn't even want to get his opinion, I guess. So kind of a shame, I think. But, and there's going to be a meeting on that. I believe it's February 4th. So
I've got a lot on that.
do you?
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
Well, see, the department I belong to, it's the Los Angeles County Fire Department, and we sell fire protection. So all of the LA County has 80 cities, and we serve 58 of them as a fire department. Well, each one of those fire departments that we took on went through this process that they're talking about.
You ought to go to the meeting.
Well,
You should. You should go to that meeting and share what you know.
I don't know if you want to get into it right now, but the one thing that's patently obvious that won't happen if you have two fire departments and you want to blend them together and there's two fire chiefs,
Oh, yeah.
it's not going to happen.
Well, they have, I guess it's the Truckee Meadows Fire, Sparks, and Reno.
Yeah.
So you got 3.
Well, to see, and you're not dealing with 3 fire chiefs, you're dealing with 3 egos. Each thinks that they can run it a
What do you know about that?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting. And
Would you like to talk about it?
sure, we can talk about it a little bit. If you've got something on it, we can chat about
Well,
that.
let me see because I highlighted some stuff. One of the things that I thought was interesting is they said,
Yeah, find the right sheet of paper. Look at him now that Ed's not there. If you're watching,
Okay.
yeah, if you're on the radio, you can't see this, but he has about 10 pieces of paper all spread across the table there, where normally Ed is sitting, so he couldn't do this. So he's taking advantage of his absence.
Actually, you don't realize that it's the same story. I just printed it many times.
I have done that. That's not a joke.
Well, the one that I was looking for, and I can pretty much wing it, is that they were talking about with the city council. They weren't just talking about the fire department. They were talking about all the rest of the water service and this and that, about combining it with others. And then they looked and they said, so-and-so did it, and it worked very, very well. And how they did it was they had 4 managers from the old department and 6 managers from the next. So they're going to have a board of 8 people or whatever. And then the next one, it's going to be a board of 5 people when these things join. What they were saying is we're just making politics bigger. They're having all of these advisors to this, and it didn't say whether they were doing it for a fee, or which I'm sure they are. And if you look, they probably get paid a very substantial fee. That's not good. That's making government bigger.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think you should join that particular meeting this next week and give them your 2 cents.
The thing of it is that really the insight to it, and it really honestly needs to be done, because if you look back, Reno would be a perfect example. You look we came up here in 2000. It was a much smaller city. Well, it prides itself on being a small city. Well, you have the other cities.
Biggest little city.
The other cities around it. Mm-hmm. Well, when you charter as a city, one of the things that you have to do is you have to provide fire and police.
Sure.
So they do that, and they build a couple of fire stations. Well, that's when the population was rather sparse. Well, as it grows, the city limits grow, they grow together. Well, just because one department had a fire station there and another one had another one, they could be literally next door to each other.
Right.
So wouldn't it make sense to combine those and eliminate one? I mean, that's the basis of it. That's consolidated fire protection, and it works very, very well. Now, there is something that works almost as good, but it's very difficult, and that's what they call automatic aid. There's 2 types of aid. There's automatic aid and there's mutual aid, not to be confused. Automatic aid is you have a fire station and it's really closer to these people than what your fire station is. So we'll give the information to our dispatch center, and they will, even though it's not in your jurisdiction, on automatic aid, they respond you.
Well, I think that's what they did with, it was, I can't remember if it was the airport authority or,
Yes. Yes.
and that's what they're doing now, is whichever station is closest is who they're dispatching instead of wherever the jurisdiction is, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So
whoever's closest goes.
Right. That kind of makes sense, right?
Go figure. Right. Just because you're a fire chief doesn't mean you're smart. That's. And then the other side of that.
Well, and it's also legalities of all of that, right?
well,
You got to make sure that everybody's going to agree and you're not violating a law.
Yeah. The other side of this is what I said was mutual aid. Mutual aid is entirely different. Mutual aid is you run a pack, and fire department A has a very, very large fire. Well, they put together a plan where they can go to their surrounding fire departments, fire department B and C, and they say on a mutual aid basis, send somebody when we request it, and they go, sure, that'll work, type deal.
Sure.
But it has to be mutual,
right,
for both. Well,
Right.
in there rubs the
Is that called egos again?
absolutely, And
Oh, my.
here's another, you want to throw water in this. Again, we, meaning the fire service, has come a long, long way. Definitions of equipment. What is a fire engine? Does it have 3 people, 2 people, 1 person, 5 people? Is it a pickup truck with a fire extinguisher? I mean, so you have to get these terms. Well, fortunately, down in Southern California, there were 5 communities, of which naturally LA County was one of them, and they literally are the parents of the incident command system. Well, with the incident command system that has now been adopted across the nation, and it has been for a number of years, but they define exactly what a fire engine is. So if somebody in Chicago, needs something from somebody in New York, we need 4 fire engines. Excuse me, what you're going to get.
Right.
But there's, that's the biggest stumbling block. I mean, there's stuff like, what's a fire hose? Sounds silly, but is it 1 inch? Is it 1.5?
Right.
I mean, but they defined all that. All that fits into exactly what we're talking about. And I would be absolutely taken aback if all of these communities around here don't have the same standards now. And let's talk about mutual aid. If you get the neighbor and he sends a fire truck and only has 2 people, is that equivalent to them sending someone to you with 4 people? So do you see how it's on the surface it works very, very well? Yeah, but these are all the things. But the biggest issue that we found in LA County is the fact you have to wait till one of these fire chiefs is either going someplace else or retiring. And then that leaves only 1 person left, or if both of them are retiring.
Well, they have the one right now that's retiring. And they did put in someone as an interim. So maybe that's the plan that they're.
Well, okay. All right. Now let's analyze
You see what I'm saying? Maybe that's what they're planning, though.
And
now they just kind of let that go by the wayside and they bring in the next guy, right?
And the interim fire chief would be for it? I don't think so.
We'll see,
Well,
right?
Then, all right. Then how much do you pay them?
Oh, agreed.
And then consolidated departments. If you have, like I say, Department A and Department B, both of them, or say one of them belongs to the union and the other one doesn't. And then they start negotiating for wages.
All right, we could go on like this forever. Let's switch gears for a second.
And rightfully so.
And let's talk about my Substack, actually, because I want to show you the picture. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And hopefully it's coming up. It just takes a second for that screen to come up. Do you see it yet?
Yeah, well.
Yep, is it there?
Half of it.
Oh, there it is. Oh, how interesting. Okay, let me switch out. Hold on a second. I'm going to switch my layout for you. And let's try this again. Stop the screen and share it again. I have a special layout that I did so that I could show those cups that we have, our Freedom Series. And apparently when I do that, then it changes the way that things are displayed. So here you go. This is better. All right, so here's our screen and my Substack, and every week I present this, and this is our picture for our word of the day. Are you forgetting what the word of the day is, Doug?
You forgot the word of the day?
No, I said, are you forgetting what the word of the day is?
Oh, heavens
so here's
no.
the picture for the word of the day, and my comment to you is, can you guess the word of the day? You might know it as one of the many synonyms, but what's the word that we choose? It's not a common word. Well, let's say it's not one that I commonly hear people use. Not one I was unfamiliar with, but definitely not commonly used. So every week, I send out my Substack, so if you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. It's at hermson.substack.com, and I'll let you know what's going on. Down here, I'll give you kind of a little synopsis of what we're going to talk about. That way you can tune in maybe, partially through if you're not real into. I try and keep things as in order as possible, though sometimes Doug and I stray a little bit. And so today I want to talk about our word of the day, which is addlepated.
Allopate.
No, addlepated.
Allopated.
Addlepated.
Yeah, well, that
Yes.
makes sense.
Addlepated.
Addlepated.
Pated. Yep.
Okay. That's
It's an easy word.
but last week, what was our word last week?
Oh, you're asking me about last week?
Yeah,
I
know.
don't remember.
Well, last week was one of the few words that we had to scratch our head for synonyms.
There were no synonyms for that one. Yeah, I remember.
This one, you have to draw a line.
You got my email. I said I picked this one because it had like 44 synonyms came up right off the top. So why don't you tell the audience what addlepated means in case they don't know?
It's actually very easy to explain. It says it's being mixed up, confused, or befuddled, basically.
Right.
That was, so I mean, the good thing about it is, man, you can use this word all the time.
Right. And like I said, I think that the picture depicts, somebody who's kind of confused, potentially. I mean, it could be a lot of things, but one of them could be confusion, that he's kind of like, what in the heck's going on here?
Absolutely.
Right? So that's why I figured you could probably guess a synonym of it, but you probably wouldn't think of addlepated. So I'm going to do the synonyms with you, but first I want to read something that I found, and I just found it today. It's from grammarist.com, and it's the Essay Shark. And it says, addlepated, addle-brained, and addle-headed are interesting words with roots in the 17th century. So they look at the definitions. All are words that mean confused, muddled, unable to think properly. Addlepated, addle-brained, and addle-headed may also describe someone who is eccentric. They're all synonyms. Synonyms are two or more words that have exactly the same meaning and are interchangeable, which we know that when you get synonyms, oftentimes they're listing them as synonyms and they're just not. Yeah. So they're derived from an Old English term, adela, meaning liquid filth. I thought that was so interesting. Liquid filth, right? In the 17th century, the term addle-eye came into use, meaning a rotten egg that does not hatch. And the term addlepated soon followed. So that's just a little bit of history about how these words became what they are. But I thought liquid filth and rotten eggs, who knew, right? From addlepated. So go to grammarist.com, and this is, like I say, from the Essay Shark. I just thought it was kind of interesting. And hopefully you're not addlepated with my description.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
All right, go ahead with their synonyms now, because we got like a lot of them.
Well, it's the second one, and I'm just going to jump to it. Pudding-headed.
Pudding-headed. Now that's interesting.
And then there's muddle-headed, confounded, confused, perplexed, mixed up. Now, those are the ones that were up front. And then we went a little bit deeper, and I ended up numbering them, and I came up with 36 of them.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
We're not going to do all 36, but pick some good ones for us.
Well, and when that's happened before, we ended up going, I don't know about that, but most of these actually are stunned, dizzy, addled, rattled, silly, muddle-headed, spaced, bemused, befuddled, mixed up, dopey.
They are good.
See, I mean, all of these are right on.
I have to pick more common words, right?
That's right. Well, now, how do you have a synonym that's 3 words? Out of it.
Yeah, that's not
works.
right. Yeah.
Fogged, punch drunk.
Oh, how funny.
How about bedeviled?
I don't know. I'm not sure about bedeviled.
Yeah. Pixelated.
Oh.
Here's another one. At sea.
At sea?
S-E-A. Yeah, at sea.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it shouldn't be followed by befogged. Flap happy, shell shocked, muzzled, bushed, spacey, unconscious.
Oh, yeah, well,
Oh,
okay.
here's one. Here, this fits, but zonked out.
Yeah, but it's not one word. That's not a synonym.
But they have them hyphenated though.
Oh, so they're cheating.
Spaced out and senseless.
All right. Well, so you got through most of them
Yeah, I think I like ones
with lots of synonyms.
that's I don't know where I read it, but they said synonyms are an author's best friend, and that is so true.
It is true. Yeah.
Usually when I start to write, in writing, whether it's a book or a letter to somebody, I do bullet points, and I'll have 6 or 8 of them, and then I look at them. But unfortunately, when you do that, when you start typing, there's a lot of words that go from one bullet point to the next. That's when the synonym dictionary just fits,
Right,
so
right.
you can make it flow without being redundant.
Yeah, and be a little more interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
So our next item, our next topic, is about legislation coming up. So I grabbed a multi-state legislative session dates, and it's interesting because Nevada is only in session every 2 years. Most states are in session every year. Right now, there are only 5 other states that are not in session, as we are not, but they are getting ready to go into session. So, but the interesting part of that is that we're in session for 120 days, and right now there are over 1,000 bills that are being presented to the legislature to cover in 6 months.
okay, but isn't it once every other year?
That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Every other year.
So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, they
they have
could
over
divide it in half if it was, but you know what? Again, one of the thinking heads out there said, hey, leave them out.
Yeah, well, and as I said, what I found interesting, and I've done this before. I did this probably 2-3 years ago, maybe 4, where I went through and I actually had to go in and find all the different states and when they were in session and all that. And I made my own little chart. I was lucky to find this legislative session date that tells me every single state, when they're in session, and for how long. So interestingly, like say Arizona, they're in session 113 to 426. That's it.
Really? Each year, though?
Each year, yes.
Yeah.
Arkansas 113 to 411. California, guess how long they're in session?
Probably 360 days.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, not quite. They are 12. 2 of 24 to 9/12, so they have a few months off. Vacation time,
Oh,
Thanksgiving,
yeah, that's right. Well,
Christmas.
You know what that vacation time is? That's for them to spend the money they've.
Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. Colorado, January 8th to May the 7th. And for my cousin who sometimes listens, just in case you're wondering, you are a state that is in session from January 6th of 2025 through 12/31 of 2025. There are almost no breaks there. There's like
Who's
a
that?
week. Wisconsin. Yep. Wisconsin is in session all year. Another one that's in session all year, save a few days, right? Like maybe a week. Pennsylvania, also Ohio, New Jersey, and Michigan. The rest of them have more interim dates, one of the longer ones being Massachusetts, that's in session almost a year, January through November. So if you're interested, go to, I don't have the website here, but just search multi-state, 2025 multi-state insider source, and you can see when your state is in session. And the reason that's important is because we all have to participate in this process. And you might say, well, how can I participate? I don't even have a clue. There are often classes that are given that help people to understand, how to testify during a session, how to give public comment. And believe it or not, the legislators do listen to that public comment. I'm not going to say they always act in your favor, but I do think that they listen, and I think that they probably attribute X number of people to, if somebody's willing to go up there and jump in and talk about it, they probably have a calculation for how many people they represent as, having a voice. So have you ever read anything about that, Doug? No? Yeah. I did. I saw something, but I don't remember what the equivalents were. And I'm sure they're different in every state. So, but I do highly recommend that there's a session coming up that Janine Hansen is doing here in Nevada, in the Reno area. It's going to be on February 4th. So if you want to know about that, you can just hit me up and I'll send you the notification that I got. You can learn how to go and give public comment and become educated about things. And the other thing is you're going to want to listen to the LeRue Press Network, because we're going to talk about legislative activities. We have a new show coming out. In addition to it's about accountability. And the legislative activities is going to cover not only Nevada, as people provide me with information about things going on in their states. We have some associates that I meet with occasionally that will be able to share what's going on in their states. And right now, I primarily cover election information because that's what I have most access to. But I should be able to cover some of the other topics as well. I'll be getting some information from some folks. So anything you've got, send it my way. I am but one, but I'm willing to share whatever I can find out and as often as I can.
I have just a very, very succinct article that I read about retirements and people that retire in California. Where are they going? They just don't stay in California. One of the things that I think we should take pride in is the first place they're going is Arizona. Second place they're going is Nevada. And the third place they're going is Texas. But what do those places have in common? Very conservative states with lots to offer.
You wouldn't know that we were conservative until recently, because prior to this, and our down ballots were all pretty much on the blue side. So I think that's one of the reasons why I suggest that you be involved, because you can be informed about what's going on.
Well, I can give you two reasons why that people are leaving California for Nevada. Number one, it's close.
Oh, sure.
Number two is our tax structure. There is no state income tax. That's a big
But California sometimes hits you with some taxes when you leave their state.
Well,
I don't know what they're doing now, but I know at one point.
Well, they're trying very, very hard to, and I don't think it's going to pass the Supreme Court test.
Ah, okay. That may not.
So,
yeah.
Needless to say, I've been following that.
Ah, yeah, bet you have. So in light of my comments about the fact that we're going to cover some election stuff, I thought you might be interested, if you're in Nevada, in knowing about, hang on a second, because I'm trying to find that document. I probably left it in the other room, because I tend to do those things. But I do have a couple of notes here on some of the bills that are going to be coming out in this next session. And let's see. This one I thought was interesting. It's AB, so it's an Assembly Bill 79. And it is at the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, and it's being presented on behalf of the Secretary of State. There is new language that will allow an elected official to use unspent funds. So they go and they have this is campaign finance information. They have unspent funds after they've won their election, right? And they're talking about allowing them to use those unspent funds for child care, elder care, and health care expenses. Primarily focused on campaign finance, as I said, and the criteria for the candidate requirement for filing is no commingling of funds. So I thought that was interesting because it means that they can use them for their personal finances, but they have to, I guess, keep them separate so that they can be accountable. But I don't know, if you're getting a new job and then you get to use those funds, I don't know how I feel about that. I have to think about that one. But I thought it was rather interesting. And the one that I have that I don't have in front of me that I had hoped to have has to do with the Secretary of State, I believe it is, that wants to have something about the false electors. Hang on, maybe I have it on my computer here. Bear with me 1 second while I take a look. But they want to be able to put people in jail, basically, if they, and again, I wish I had it in front of me. I'll find it and we can do it after the break. I'll find it. I know I have it printed. I just didn't bring it in. So, but so the false electors, where they said that when Trump was in 2020, that the Republicans came up and they presented electors that they felt were the correct electors, and they said those are false, and they tried to indict them, and I think they're indicting them again. I'm not sure, but now they're trying to put a law in that will allow them to put them in jail. I don't know. That just doesn't even make sense to me. I thought about it from the standpoint, if I was a Democrat, you might feel the same way. You might want to have your say, and why shouldn't you be able to?
I don't know if it would pass a Supreme Court test.
I don't know.
And let me tell you why. And we've talked about this before. United States Supreme Court gave a ruling that it is okay for a politician to lie. So if you...
Yeah, but these aren't politicians. These are the representatives, like from a party, that are coming in and they're saying, hey, we believe that this guy won, right, from our state. And this other group of electors say, no, we believe this guy won. So they're trying to stop that. But I don't know. Isn't that what politics is all about? Is, having the different opinions, and why are we putting people in jail for that? There's lots of other things going on that we can put people in jail for.
Wouldn't that violate their First Amendment right?
I don't know. It seems that way to me, but I think you have to look at the details of how it's written. That's why I was hoping I had that document, and for whatever reason I do not.
We're going to have to get deeper into the Constitution because we need to talk about the 14th Amendment.
In what regard, as far as
birthrights?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that's coming up on the front of Donald Trump saying that he wants to, or he signed that executive order saying that there is no birthright citizenship.
And when I read that, the first thing I did was I read the 14th Amendment. I go, well, okay. And so I got to the end of it, and I was scratching my head, and I said, well, what in the hell did that say?
I know. I read it, too. I reread it because I said, well, maybe I need to reread that, because everybody said, no, that's already been settled. I don't know that it has. I think there is a Supreme Court ruling on it, but I'm not sure if it's the way that the document is written from the executive order or how that plays out.
The other night we were driving along and I was listening to Mark Levin, who is an attorney, and he is probably one of the most intelligent people you will ever hear on the radio. Well, with that being said, he's definitely staked his area out. He is a conservative.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
He went over the 14th Amendment from one side of it to the other, and his conclusion is, just because you're born here does not give you the right to citizenship. So, that's pretty.
Do you recall how he came to that conclusion? Do you have any?
I do, because there are several phrases in there, and I can't remember exactly what the phrases were, but the original amendment was drawn up, and it was drawn up right after the Civil War, and what it wanted to do, what the root of it is they wanted to give the blacks
Right, I remember that part.
citizenship.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I say that, let's see, give them citizenship. So that's what it was drawn up for. Well, but the wording that they used would preclude it from being an umbrella phrase for everybody that's born here. So it's, and and like you, Janice, you read it a couple times, and it does take somebody with the legal knowledge of how amendments are written and what's going through their mind and what the backstory is on how they did it. But I would be shocked if it didn't end up in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, I would be too. And I guess that's really probably what they all want, is to get it there and get it settled one way or the other.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think about it?
What do I think about it?
Yes.
I've always thought that it was odd to provide citizenship to somebody who was here just because they happened to be here when they had a child.
Yeah.
I would think that they would want citizenship for their child in their own country. That would be, that was very naive and I was young when I first thought about that. And I thought, well, of course they want to be in their own country. Why would they want to be, not that there aren't some great benefits, but I guess because of the way I feel about our country, I expect other people to think that of their own country, right? That was my very naive rationalization.
Well, what President Trump put forward isn't just a blanket saying that, no, this isn't. What it did is it defined it.
Right.
One of the things that it said is, is the mother illegal and the father legal, or both of them illegal?
Right.
And I'm sorry for listeners if I say illegal, but that's the best way to describe them. You can use all of the euphemisms out there that you want, but the bottom line is they're in this country. They don't have citizenship. So it was written.
So why would their child have citizenship would be my question
exactly.
too. Yeah.
And that's exactly where it was headed. So,
yeah, and that's I think a logical way to look at it. We know that the law is not always logical. And we know that it doesn't always work that way. But at the same time, maybe we need to really think about this and consider it in a more logical fashion.
I was taught years ago, and it kind of violates what you said, is the acronym TARM, the average reasonable man. And supposedly all of our laws are written by virtue of the average reasonable man, so he can interpret well.
One would think. But I pulled up the 14th Amendment, and in just beginning to read it, in the very first sentence, I think I would think what people think, which is that anybody who's born here would be a citizen, just from reading the very first sentence. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, that's where the question comes in, where they reside. Well, do you reside here just because you had a child here? Not necessarily. And are you residing here legally? Not necessarily. So all those factors come into it, right?
Well,
isn't that kind of what you were alluding to?
Another thing that, again, that is written in there is that one of the criteria is that where they are from, does that state or
where they
that
reside,
country,
where they reside,
does that country where they're from have rights to you as a citizen?
Right.
So if you come from Mexico and come here, no, you're a Mexican citizen. They have rights to you. So you can't just walk over and say, hey, screw you, Mexico. I'm like it over here better. So
well, apparently they've been able to for a while now.
but Janice, doesn't this prove our point though with it? Isn't it a good thing that we have the three branches of government?
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Because I think that it is something that needs to be talked about, and we need to take a serious look at it And
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that, and unfortunately, it will come up. Say the Supreme Court says, yes, you're absolutely right. There is no birthright citizenship. Well, there's a lot of people here that are saying they are citizens. Well, all of a sudden they become non-citizens. What do you do with them?
I think that's the big $64,000 question, right?
But that's one the Supreme Court doesn't weigh in on.
I know. Well, I'm going to switch gears for a sec because I want to let everybody know that on February 20th, which is a Thursday, at the Atlantis Casino Resort Spa in the Emerald Room, Nevada Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony will be speaking. And there are tickets online if you go to redmove.org, and you can get your tickets and be there for dinner and hear what he has to say. Protecting women's sports in Nevada is the topic. And that's part of their dinner speaker series. So make sure you check that out. Again, Nevada Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony and Atlantis Casino, February 20th. So go to redmove.org and find that and get some tickets.
You know, it's kind of fun because one of the things that we have said many, many times on this program, and Ed says it probably twice as much as anybody else. He says, all right, we've defined the problem. What are we going to do about it? And that's very true. Let's quit, let's quit, digging up problems. Let's start digging up solutions. Well, with that being said, when do you have time to look for solutions? Life is busy.
It is busy. I do have to agree with you on that. And what I would say is, I think it's the one email, the one phone call, the one 3-minute statement, public comment. Those are the things that help to at least let your representatives know what you want them to do, because we're a representative government, right? So we have to let our representatives know what we want in order for them to perform.
Okay. Let's use that as a benchmark. And what happened when the populace of this country told President Biden very, very succinctly, very, very clearly, we do not want open borders?
He
What
didn't
happened?
listen. Well, he didn't listen.
Yeah, what
But
they
look
did
what
was
happened.
they lied to us.
But wait, what happened? They voted him out, basically. I mean, I realize he wasn't running, but
Now they have.
well,
with
what other
President Trump.
What other choice did they have? They could have impeached him, I suppose. But then you would have had Kamala, and she was the border czar, and she was doing the same thing anyway, right?
Well,
So what options do you have at that point?
if you go back 6 months, there was that trial balloon, I believe, about impeaching him, President Biden, over the issue of he was supposed to protect the people in this country. That's his number one charge.
Right.
And by the influx of a foreign country, how do we know who they are? We don't.
Well,
So-
apparently the Trump administration has been able to figure out a lot of them, because they've gotten a lot of folks that were the bad guys. At least that's what we're being told. And they're pulling them off and they're sending them home. So
Where Colombia, is that where they sent up, and the president of Colombia came out and said, hey, you treated all these people like criminals. You put them on an airplane and you flew them down here and they were all handcuffed. That's not right. That's going against they're basically, they're human beings. And then I read an extension of that same article. It says, how would you like to be a pilot with 100 and some people back there not handcuffed?
I wouldn't. It's
Pretty
a good point.
Pretty much ends the argument, doesn't it?
You know, I saw a tweet from somebody, I don't remember who tweeted it out, but they were bashing the White House because they spelled Columbia wrong. Instead of spelling it Colombia, they spelled it with a U, like Columbia University, right? So I don't even know how I found it, but I guess I was researching that statement to see if it was really real. And in the process of doing that, so they're saying how dumb is, how dumb the White House is, that they can't even get their act together, they can't even spell. Well, then I came upon this article about President Obama and and this was from the Columbia Times or something. I mean, it was actually from themselves, and it said that he spelled Columbia incorrectly at that time. And that was like 2012 or 8 or, somewhere in there. And I thought, man, you guys really have to look at history so I tweeted that out because I thought, you know what, this isn't fair. You guys are going to pick on Obama too.
Wait a second. Let's look a little bit further back. Do you remember the word tomato?
Yes, I do.
But you know what? He was.
Was that Quayle? Is that who we're talking about?
He was chastised because he knew how to spell it, but one of the teachers that was there with the students says, "Oh, no, Vice President, this is how you spell it." She's the one that changed it. Of course, the news media
didn't tell us
hating
that.
the conservative. They didn't pick it up. They said, "Oh no, he's the one that can't spell tomato." And you know what? It stuck.
Of course. Yeah, but I think it's so interesting that they're still trying to pick on someone. This time it wasn't Trump, it was the White House, but at any rate. And then I want to make one comment. We're talking about all the election stuff, and I know anybody who listens to us knows that I believe that the elections are rigged. And even though President Trump won this election and won Nevada, I still believe that the elections were rigged. And I believe that the down ballot candidates, many of them suffered because of whatever it is that's going on out there. And I went to a meeting last night and Robert Beatles did a presentation. He's sending everybody his presentation so we can look at it ourselves. And if we want to share it, we can. So I'm going to be going through that and see if there's anything of value that I can share succinctly with you that'll make sense. And because it's a lot of data and a lot of information. So, in a short time, it's kind of hard to do. I'd have to actually do a longer presentation. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that I'm looking at the democracy. This is something that Nevada is supporting. And I got to find the name of the organization again. I had it here. And I did talk about it in my post. So hang on a second so I can get that. It is the Democracy Project, I believe is what it's called. Oh, hang on here. The outgoing fire chief, that's not it. So I'm not going to find it. Democracy something project. I can't remember what the second word is. Democracy Defense Project. Sorry, it's right here. Sorry, folks. Okay, so Democracy Defense Project. They have on their site, they have all this different news that they're saying. And from Nevada, they posted, I would say, 3, 4, 5 different articles saying, we had clean elections. Every election was secure. Everything about it was secure. And I want you to know that the Secretary of State is investigating some of the complaints right now. So how about being a little honest and saying, we believe it to be secure. However, there are some things that are being investigated, right? That would be honest reporting. Arizona's 2024 election is secure. Here's how we help you believe it. They actually have an article that tells you, here's how we help you believe it. So I guess they know you don't believe it, and they're trying to help you believe it. That's insane. That is insane. What kind of media do we have here, right? Don't you want to be helped to believe that the election is secure? I think we all need that.
Isn't that a product of our education right now?
Oh my, yes.
I mean, they're telling you what to think, not telling you how to think.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to here's how we, or here's some data to prove otherwise, or to prove why it is, or something. But to say, to help you believe it, you can't tell me what to believe. You can't force others to know what to believe. I mean, that's just insanity. That's my opinion. What
Yeah,
can I tell
no,
you? I don't always have an opinion, but I do on that. So watch for more from us, especially on the legislative activities, because we have a group that is following the election pieces of that. And there are many, many, many others that are out there following the other bills, because with 1,000 bills, elections are not going to be 1,000 bills. They're going to be, 10 maybe, which is too many also, but that's probably about all there will be. But we'll cover whatever we can, and like I say, I do have some folks that are willing to help me out and provide me with some information and facts. And I'm going to do my best to share whatever I can and keep you informed. So, on that note, we do have to take our first hour break, and we'll be back for our second hour in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and post my notification to you that just basically says, hey, we're going on a little break. We'll be back in a minute. We're gone for probably 2, 3, 4 minutes, something like that. Come back about the top of the hour. We're not always exactly on time, but we'll walk around a little bit. And so you do the same, and we look forward to chatting with you again when we get back. Talk a little publishing. I know he's got a ton of papers over there. I'm pretty sure he's got some stuff for us too. And I've got the beneficial ownership information. I'm going to update you on that as well. So we shall return, and we hope you will as well. Talk to you soon. I'm Janice Hermson. He's Doug Ashby, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Janice Hermson. This is What's the Story? I'm here with Doug Ashby, my co-host, and we are glad that you hung in there with us. Thank you so much. And we are... Doug was laughing at himself because...
Well, there's a story behind this just right here. Last week, I wore a shirt, and I told Janice, I said, can you fix that camera? This picture of me with this shirt on looks like I have boobs. Well, she didn't say, oh, no, it doesn't. She looked at it, she goes, yeah, it does. So I made sure today
that you had a different shirt on.
Now, what I was just laughing about, I couldn't hear with my headsets. Well, why couldn't I? I had them on backwards.
Who knew? Who knew? Now you do.
Well, you have to be able to tell. That means you're secure in your own personality, I guess.
It's true. It's very true. And why not? I mean, we're all friends here, right? So I left my documents out just behind Doug over there. So I did find, in the last segment, I was talking about one of the bills that's going to be presented in the Nevada Legislature in the session coming up on February 3rd. I think I said February 4th in the last segment. It's February 3rd. And this particular one is a Senate bill. It's Senate Bill number 102, and it's being presented by Senator Daley referred to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. And this is the one that I was talking about, the potential for jail time. So it's relating to elections, prohibiting a person from with intent to defraud. So now that has to be intent to defraud, which is a little different than just, presenting something. Knowingly creating, filing, or otherwise submitting certain documents relating to elections, prohibiting a person from creating or serving in a false slate of presidential electors, or conspiring to create or serve in a false slate of presidential electors, prohibiting the state or a local government from appointing to public office a person convicted of such an offense. And remember, they are trying to get the folks that did this in the 2020 election. So this is kind of like preemptive of, oh, hey, if we can get them convicted, they can never run. Prohibiting a person from interfering with the selection of presidential electors, providing penalties, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. And let's not forget, too, that the Democrats for, I don't know how many years in a row stood up and objected to the person that was elected for many, many, many years. So this isn't new. I just think that this is a little bit of, I might say, overkill. How's that? So I wanted to tell you, I did find the paperwork, and we are good to go on that. And then also on beneficial ownership information, there's a new law that went into effect, and it's been put on hold. And supposedly on January 13th, you were going to have to file. Then that got put on hold. So I checked again. It's still on hold. So nobody's made a decision yet. So if you have not filed as an LLC, or I'm not sure if corporations have to, but I know LLCs do. Sole proprietors do not. And so anyway, check it out and just keep an eye out or tune in. I'm trying to keep up on this every week so that if it changes, you'll know, because there are penalties involved if you don't file on time, and they're not cheap. I believe it was 500 and something. I didn't print anything out for this time around because I knew that there was nothing you're going to have to do right now. So anyway, that's the story on beneficial ownership information, and hopefully we never have to file that, because my goodness, we have plenty of things to file as entrepreneurs. We don't need another document, right? I mean, enough is enough. All right. So, and Doug, I sent Doug some information about a direct energy weapon that someone was saying that caused certain failures. Now, there have been some reports about arsonists in Los Angeles. So Doug he gathered a lot of information, and he wants to talk to you about this, because we all see this stuff on social media. We don't know if it's true or not. Sometimes it seems like it really could be. because of the way that things are happening and the fact that the officials do not provide much information. They say so close-mouthed about things, which I get. You know, you want to be careful what you say. You don't want to give false information. You don't want to lead people astray. But at the same time, when things like this come out, somebody needs to say something and lead us in the right direction, right? So take it away, Doug.
You know, before we go,
Direct energy.
Yeah.
Direct energy weapon.
Quit drinking my coffee. Huh?
Do.
No, this is once you delve into this stuff. You know, this morning I spent seems like an inordinate amount of time reading about all the things that we're going to talk about here. But the one thing that popped up, and it's a little left over from last week, and it has to do with Jimmy Carter. And I thought, you know what, I have to put this out here because he is about 180 degrees opposite of about the way that I feel about government. But let me read, it's just one long sentence. It says, well, first of all, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation joins the nation as we mourn the loss of former President Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. President Carter's dedication to disaster preparedness and response, as well as addressing the nation's fire problem, has had a lasting influence on generation of firefighters and emergency response personnel. The Nation of Fallen Firefighters Foundation extends our deepest condolences to his family and loved ones. And I thought that was very nice. You know what? Because I didn't know that, and here I'm steeped in fire department stuff. So, yeah, I thought,
well, there you go.
It's nice to,
all right.
You know, if you find something like that, it's nice to share it like that.
It is. You're correct.
Okay, now, I spent, again, a little bit of my background, 35 years in the fire service, 2 different fire departments. LA County Fire Department, when you're a captain above, when you go to a fire, you are charged with finding the source of that fire. If you can't do it, we have several places within the department to go. LA County is pretty different, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. They serve so many cities, and each city looks at arson differently. And what I say about that, LA County looks at arson and arsonists as a crime. Crime is the sheriff's department.
Oh.
So as soon as we find something that looks like it's an arson, we pass that off over to the sheriff's department.
Okay.
However, it depends on what city you're in. If it's a city that doesn't think of it the way the county does, we have our own arson investigators. So that's just my background in it, that I have looked at lots and lots of origins. And the one thing that you do when you look for the cause, one of the things that you look for of what caused a fire is, first of all, you go in with a blank slate. You don't go in with a preconceived idea of what you want to end up with, because you will not get the correct answer. But there are certain things that you know, and everybody says, well, isn't it kind of complicated? Isn't it all, doesn't all the evidence burn up? Well, you'd be surprised. No, it doesn't. You know, there's a lot of things that you can look for, and we certainly won't get into it, but it is an expertise that you have to look at. Now, I'm going to tell you 2 stories about 2 people who I think had a preconceived notion. They had a thesis statement, and they worked their investigation back to support their thesis.
Oh.
You do not do an investigation that way.
True.
So these are 2 people. One of them is an arborist. And let me, I hate doing this, but let me read you a little bit about his qualifications. A forensic arborist has determined that that nearly all wildland fires in California since the Paradise Fire have been caused by direct energy weapons. Okay, now that brings up certainly the question, what is a direct energy weapon? Because I didn't have an idea what they're talking about. This comes from Wikipedia, right off the internet. A direct energy weapon, or a DEW, D-E-W, is a range of weapons that damages its target with highly focused energy without a solid projectile, including lasers, microwaves, particle beams, and sound beams. Potential applications of this technology include weapons that target personnel, missiles, vehicles, and optical devices. Okay, that's just pretty much the thumbnail of what it is. Now, there's two people. I told you about this, the first guy, the arborist. His name is Robert Bream, and he has over 38 years of experience and has spent the last 48 years studying plant kingdom, focusing on California's flora. He has conducted extensive field work, making 106 trips to the aftermath of 38 different wildland fires, mostly in California. According to his analysis, he determined that only 3 of these fires were due to natural causes. And to that, personally, I say bunk. I had some other words in there I was going to, but that's
You read the sign that says, don't do that.
One of the examples he provides is the Coffee Park Fire in Santa Rosa, California in 2017. Several highly flammable trees were left entirely intact despite homes burning to the ground around it, like we see that in the LA fires. Okay, nobody can answer that question. Only the good Lord knows why those things happen. You just don't know.
So in your experience, have you seen that happen?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
Matter of fact,
So it happened often?
Oh,
or
well, I don't know
rarely?
how often
or
it is, but yes, it does happen. We were on a fire one time, and we watched these people. There was 2 houses, and the fire was literally coming over the hill towards these 2 houses. And the one person thought, hey, my house is just ordinary construction. The one next door is block, built in block. Let's put all our stuff over there. Oh, they worked like crazy. Guess which house burnt down?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh,
And you ask, why does that happen? Nobody knows that. You can't, you're just, the good Lord is, it just, and if you look at what happened in these last fires, it was like, it's basically due to what the winds were doing and the moisture content of the fuel. You have dry fuel and you have blowtorch type winds.
So in Hawaii, when Lahaina, I guess it was, when they were talking about the trees were still, there, and everything else was like rubble.
Yeah.
And so that to you is not unusual at all.
Well, but you don't know what the man.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Well,
To you, it's not
I'll give you an
unusual.
example. Maybe these trees that are left had a very, very good root base that went right into underground water, and they were filled with moisture.
So the ones in California, in your experience, would that be the case that the types of trees that were there would likely be? I mean, I'm just trying to kind of get,
That's exactly where I'm going, Janice. And for these 2 guys, and I'll get to the second guy in a second, to come up with a conclusion like that, there are just so many unknowns that you don't know. And I hate to keep using.
Do you know if they went out there at all, or if they were just?
Well, according to him, in his 48 years, he did 105 fires, in California, and this is what he came up with. But well, here, let's see. In all of his 120 trips, the fire-ravaged areas, mostly in California, he found strange, consistent anomalies. such as melted glass and aluminum where there shouldn't be. In other scenarios, fence posts made of wood only ignited near the screws or metal, leading him to believe that being heated up by some kind of microwave technology.
Which
That's
is
one
what-
hell of a stretch.
Yeah, which is what if you read from the Department of Defense, it's saying in the weapons version, the microwave energy effects or lethality depends on the power and range to target, but the energy beams tend to be larger and not as sensitive to jitter as is the case for the high energy lasers. So he obviously read this and knew that they, the microwave was an issue, right? And
Yeah,
made
they're-
a conclusion.
They're working. I think they're working backwards for headlines. Okay, the second chap.
Sorry, that wasn't from the Department of Defense. That was from National Defense University Press.
They say a highly decorated fire captain, John Lord, speaks out about the possibility of direct energy weapons used to start over 16 major fires that began in the middle of the night in Noma, Sonoma, Mendocino counties. He says, Captain Lord says this is based on 30 years of experience. Okay, now, direct energy weapons. Who has those? I don't think that's something you can build in your backyard.
Wouldn't think so. So Department of Defense, they would have them.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
And then you have to ask, okay, all right, let's assume it is. It's this clandestine part of our government, and they have this, and it runs around in a car, and they put up the antenna, and then all of a sudden at midnight they're going to shoot a beam out and start a fire. To what end?
I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know. 15-minute cities, maybe?
Pardon?
15-minute cities, maybe?
It says the fires spread over 16 locations at the same time and even crossed an 8-line highway, burning down the entire Kmart store in just hours. Cars were found melted. Houses were found dustified. I don't know what dustified is.
Dustified? Does that mean like they were
I guess
reduced to dust?
I guess so.
I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I would interpret that.
Okay.
Reduced to dust.
All right.
Dustified.
Even the head of CAL FIRE said on CNN he had no idea what started over the 60 strikes that came out of nowhere in the middle of the night without warning. Suddenly unexplained.
Come on, you're putting some drama into
Yeah,
this
suddenly unexplained winds kicked up to 60 to 70 miles an hour. Blue flashes and sparks were seen above by many, including me. Cars were torched, yet trees untouched. Homes were reduced to unrecognizable rubble. I don't believe a word what either of these guys say their conclusion is. Okay? Now, let me go right over to...
He's searching through his papers.
This is what if some of our listeners fall in line with this, it's the clandestine part of our government doing this to
Right.
destroy us.
And there are a number of folks online on different social media that do fall into that. I will
Okay.
tell you that I've
Now-
read a lot of them, and that's where I found this one.
Sure. Okay. Now this belongs towards the end of the program in our book segment. The name of the
okay.
book is Thoreau in the Language of Trees, a hardcover. Trees are the central to Henry David Thoreau's creativity as a writer, his work as a naturalist, his thoughts and his inner life. His portraits of them are so perfect, as if you can see the sap flowing beneath the bark. Then Thoreau
well
wrote
written.
that the poem loves the pine trees as his own shadow in the air. He has speaking about himself. In short, he spoke in their language. So if you like these two chaps, there's a good book for you. It was written, unfortunately, in 2017 But Goodreads gave it a 4.2, so you can do that.
Oh, there
So
you go.
I thought
There
I'd
you
say
go.
that.
All right.
Okay,
You got
and
anything else?
And not not to leave that alone. If you don't want to read a book, you can whistle a tune, and it's called "I Talk to the Trees and They Don't Listen to Me."
Oh,
it's
my.
by Robert Goulet. So
Oh, yes. And if you know who Robert Goulet is, you're as old as we are. or you have parents that listened.
you have to go when you're investigating fires. And I've had times, unfortunately, when and I can think of one that comes to mind.
So Suzanne says, so Gates wants to rid us of trees. So like Bill Gates wants to rid us of trees. That's a proposal of why we might have had this happen. There you go. There you go.
I had a fire. It was in a kitchen, and man, I had this guy nailed. I knew he was supposedly in the back bedroom when his kitchen caught on fire. Anyway, we got there, put it out, and I could trace it right back to where he said. And as I'm telling the story, as a lot of it's coming back, he says, "Yeah, what I did is I put 2 pieces of toast or 2 pieces of bread in the toaster in the back bedroom, but when I came out, the kitchen was on fire. I know it was the toaster." Oh, baloney.
He knew it was the toaster.
So what my option was is to get the sheriff's department out there, get their investigators. They came out and they said, and unfortunately, a lot of times what you have to do is you have to search. Number one cause in a lot of fire is electrical. And so they moved the refrigerator around and they said, yeah, you see this cord, we can't eliminate that. So this guy went free. And that's always bugged me because I had him dead to rights.
All right. Well, let's switch gears for a second. Are you a football fan?
The what?
Are you a football fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, are you going to watch the Super Bowl?
I certainly am.
And what's your favorite food to make as you watch the Super Bowl? Or after or before? Do you have Super Bowl parties and have all sorts of stuff?
Oh, it's got to be chips, I think.
Oh, just chips?
and dips,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Right.
I pulled up because it's been a long time since I've done a Super Bowl thing. I used to be a huge football fan. In recent years, busy working and doing other things and not a huge football fan. A little more NASCAR than football. So I pulled up some recipes. And, when my husband was alive, he used to love to watch cooking shows. And I had a terrible time because he was at one point even on a feeding tube and still loved watching cooking shows. It drove me crazy because how do you watch them and not want to have all that food, right? But he didn't have that problem at all. And that was his entire life. He loved it. And for me, even looking at these pictures, I pulled up pictures off the internet of favorite football or Super Bowl recipes, right? And I'm looking at this stuff, and Lenore and I were talking about it. I said, oh man, this looks really good. We should make this. So they have some pull-apart patty melt sliders.
Wow.
So doesn't that sound good?
Oh, it does.
Yes, it really does. This
Wait
one.
a second. Have you ever analyzed that? How could something that really sounds good be called a slider?
I know. And I don't usually eat sliders either, but that just looked so good. And then they have, let's see what else they had. Air fryer mozzarella sticks. Probably because some of these foods are things that I really do like to eat. So, but I never think about, I'll go out and get mozzarella sticks, but I don't think about making them at home, right? So here's a nice recipe for that. $1 million dip. Well, we all make dip, right? Of different kinds. How about some honey barbecue chicken wings? That sounds good. See, I'm hungry now, just looking at this stuff. Sheet pan pizza. I love pizza.
Yeah,
so that's a good
Debbie.
food.
Yeah, that's Debbie's favorite meal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could eat pizza all the time. That's just one of those things. Or here's another good one. This is bacon wrapped jalapeno thingies.
Wow.
That was good.
Well, you know,
Anything bacon wrapped has got to be good. I'm not a jalapeno fan. Again, my husband, he would have loved it. But
it's a good thing Ed isn't here today because he would be telling us, "Oh, this is going to be bad for
I
you."
know.
Hey, this is a Super Bowl. You can eat what you want, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Super Bowl, you have the day off
Yeah.
from diets, etc. Or how about cowboy caviar?
Cowboy caviar.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is cowboy caviar? Why, it's the most delicious salsa. Huh. Full of creamy beans, colorful veggies, and fresh herbs. Plus, this recipe makes 6 cups, so it'll be great to snack on all game long.
Yeah.
So check out the internet. I mean, there's a lot more here. That Philly cheesesteak sliders, chicken nachos. Oh, maybe they're being a little better doing chicken nachos, right? How about some ham and cheese pinwheels? I don't know if I like that.
It's
Ham and
got to be a
cheese
little more
pinwheels.
exotic than that.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
suppose they want to serve tomato soup with it.
Maybe so, huh? Buffalo chicken sloppy joes. I haven't thought about sloppy joes in 100 years. Yeah. And chicken bacon ranch dip. Again, bacon with anything is a yes for me. So that sounded good too. So I have a lot more, but I don't want to bore y'all with that. But I just thought that I would share a few. Since Ed couldn't be here today, I wanted to at least share some of the food choices.
Debbie and I were sitting in a Mexican restaurant over in Paso Robles. 2 guys, middle-aged guys, dressed very nicely, suits, ties, sat down, and each one of them had a bowl apiece of hot peppers.
Oh, my.
And they just dove right into those. And they looked over at us because Debbie and I were sitting there with our mouths open.
And they said, what's wrong with you folks?
Well, they looked at us and laughed, and they said, it's funny what you get a taste for. But when, once you start liking these, it really is delicious. Yeah, but how do you put the fire out?
Yeah, I would not be able to deal with that at all.
I wouldn't either.
That would be terrible. So I did want to also talk about, we've got some time here, and I wanted to go through, did you have something else? I forgot if you had another topic you wanted to cover before I talked about publishing.
I do. This right here again. Like I said, I don't know how I came up with so many things on fire department today because I didn't. Well, I only put in, a couple search words, but they were very
Well, with
long.
all the fires going on out there,
Yeah,
everybody
that
and his
was-
brother's going
this
to
stuff.
talk
Yeah, but
about
it
fires,
says,
right?
It says Reno is the unexpected fire divorce capital of the world.
What does that mean?
That means there's a lot of firefighters getting divorced here.
Oh.
With that being said, there was an article, I don't know, it's been a couple of weeks since I read it, about, especially with these fires that, that have been raging for so long. LA County, when they have you, and they will work you. And unfortunately, because so much of it was in, their district and on rigs that they sent out to help other people, they were just working the guys to death. But the story was about how much money these guys are making. Now, I have 2 articles here. One of them, and I won't get into it because it belongs into our book segment.
Right.
But I'll get to it. Yeah. But
That's in a couple minutes.
yeah, but with these guys, they're away from their families. They're out there. They're just absolutely tired to the bone. And sure, they're making money. But at what point?
Are they treating it as if it's a bad thing that because they've made the money? Is that the essence of it?
Yes and no. What they were saying is, do you realize some of these firefighters are making $400,000 a year? Well, yeah, with overtime, away from not only that, how about their death rate, their injury rate? There's a whole lot of things that are tied
But
to
do they
it.
say that about the athlete that's making $1 million plus? I mean, if you're going to go there, then you have to go there. They talk about CEOs the same way. Oh, they make so much money. Oh, and maybe they're not exposed to fire or whatever,
Yeah.
but what are they exposed to and how many hours do they put in or do they? I don't know.
Well,
Right?
Janice, that's an excellent point because I don't know too many CEOs that are actually doing life-threatening work.
True, but you don't know what they are doing and what warrants that income, right?
Well, one of the things and I've got a very, very close friend.
And I'm not defending anybody here. I'm just
No,
trying to
I've
give
got
a
a-
counter to,
I've got
you know,
a very
the
close
argument.
friend and fraternity brother that, he says this is just appalling. Maybe instead of him making $30 million this year, he should give his employees health insurance. And I said, Tim, if that CEO made his company millions and millions of dollars by his expertise, I think he deserves it.
right. So yeah, you've got too many masters as a CEO too, because you've got your stockholders, depending on the company, of course.
There was a fellow.
And you have your employees, right? I mean, you have a lot of people to please.
Absolutely. There was a fellow that ran J.C. Penney's. This is probably going back 15 years. His last name was Johnston. I don't remember his first name. He literally ran J.C. Penney's into the ground.
Well, Suzanne says, let's talk about what politicians make.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and they're not making it from the taxpayer necessarily. They're making it in other ways.
like Biden
Yeah,
from China.
yeah. Oh, I have another story. Oh, okay. Maybe I have a minute to talk about that. I wrote it down. Lenora shared with me that she was listening to something. I think she was coming into work, heard this story about how they have. Let me rewind in my brain. So the Trump administration is blocking aid to foreign countries, I think. It's something of that nature. I don't know if I have it exactly right, but they're blocking the aid, right? And they said, so let's take a look at what this is for. What are they sending the aid for? $50 billion was how much was going out to Gaza. You want to know what it was for? Condoms.
To what?
Condoms. You think maybe there's a little bit of laundering going on there? Come on, folks.
Well, wait a
Right?
second. Hey, what's the population there?
Unbelievable. I have no idea, but unbelievable. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, how obvious do you need to be? During the pandemic, they were sending to Pakistan, they were for money for transgender studies. During the pandemic, when everybody was in lockdown, they were sending money to Pakistan for transgender studies. So, are you kidding? Yeah.
That's
Hey, Suzanne, you can get, she's talking about one of the cups that are sitting up there in our little display, and you can get those at Buy Me a Coffee. You can also get them if you go to bookgallerynv.com and click on the store where you get your books, and you'll find those cups there. You can come to LeRue Press. We got them here, too. So thanks for asking, Suzanne. That's awfully nice of you.
Can I tell
I promise I didn't pay her.
Can I tell you a quick story about a mother and two sons about condoms?
Oh, I don't know if I want you to tell that story.
Oh,
Let's hold that one.
no,
Let's
it's-
hold that one because I got to talk about publishing for a minute. I promised folks I would talk about publishing, so we're going to talk about it. 6 top challenges in the publishing industry. Now, this happens to be an article that I know is a promotion for these folks' product, okay? But I still found it really interesting, despite the fact that, because they say, and how to solve them. Well, of course, you buy their product. That's how you solve the problems. But what they pointed out was kind of interesting because, yes, it's for publishers primarily, but if you're an author, you're also a publisher, especially if you self-publish, you're a publisher, right? Even if you're going to tell me I'm just an author, I just wrote a book. Well, you're still a publisher if you're self-publishing. So the 6 main publishing industry challenge types and their solutions. So they're saying that technological disruptions, which I think is very valid. The rise of ebooks and digital platforms, audiobooks and podcasts, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So as an individual, as a self-published individual, my goodness, you have a lot of challenges here, right? I mean, you're facing all these different things as far as, and I am going to tell you that I don't have a solution per se, but I have a suggestion for a solution. So the rise of ebooks, digital platforms, I think pretty much everybody's kind of figured that out. Okay. Audiobooks and podcasts, maybe podcasts for an author is a little more difficult. But it can easily be done even from your own living room, okay? Artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's one I think that is new enough and it is challenging. Do you use it? Do you not? How much do you trust, right? So, and then discoverability. Yeah, that's a problem for everybody. How do you get discovered? Whether you're an author, a publisher, an entrepreneur, small business, how do you get discovered? So that's their number one challenge. Market dynamics, changing consumer preferences. Yeah. Do you know your market? Do you know who they are and how do you get them? Subscription models, probably not so much for an individual author. But, if you're trying to do like something like a Substack, you're looking for subscriptions that way. And so that could be a challenge for you. Inconsistent revenues. Ha, ha, ha. How true, right? Right? I mean, who doesn't have that problem? Except for maybe large corporations, but I'll bet they're inconsistent as well, right? Retaining readers. Oh my, that's huge. How do you retain your reader? And one of the main solutions for that for the individual author is to make sure that you're not only writing your book, if that's what you're promoting, but to also find ways to, again, the Substack idea, write some articles, do what Doug does, come on a show and share what you know. And in his case, it actually relates to his book. So that's even better. Next thing, economic challenges. This is number 3, pricing pressures. Yes. How do you price your book? Do you change the price? When do you change it? When you're actually putting the book together, what kind of barcode do you buy? I have this conversation with authors all the time. There is a 90,000 barcode that you can buy that then you don't have to put a price on, and your retailer can put whatever price you tell them to put on there. So that's excellent. Of course, you're going to say what your retail price is, but you don't have to have it on the book. Because if you do, and then you change it, you have to get a new barcode. Who wants to do that, right? Declining print sales and revenue. On this one, revenue from print newspapers, magazines, and books very much dominate the market. However, digital growth is outpacing traditional growth. In the case of consumer magazines, Global Firm predicts digital advertising revenue will, for the first time, exceed print ad revenue. So that's more for magazines rather than books. But it is saying traditional publishers want to focus on ways to save costs internally and diversify their offerings. So for the individual author, again, that maybe doesn't apply. The role of big retailers and distributors. Well, that's your problem from day one as an individual author. You're already having that problem. Royalty management. Authors typically receive compensation based on percentage of revenue. And this is a huge problem for authors. How do you get paid? What percentage are you going to get? And how do you maximize that, I guess I would say.
Janice, I was told and so believed that, you see these books in Costco, the authors are getting probably maybe a dime on every book that's sold.
Maybe 50 cents. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, it's true. You don't get much. Legal and ethical challenges. Plagiarism is nothing new. I actually had an author call me. He hasn't, he's actually writing a book now, and I'm going to have him on. But he found his book online, which hasn't been out for quite a while. And it had no barcode on the back cover. So it looks like maybe somebody did something, because it's his book, at least the cover is his, and so he's contacting them and he's going to see what he can find out as to what's going on. So another economic challenge, censorship and freedom of expression. Well, we all have that problem, right? Privacy and data protection. I'm trying to run through these kind of quickly because we're going to run out of time here. And I know we have books to do. So sustainability challenges. Let me just jump to diversity and representation. As an author, you're going to be stuck with who you are and what you are. So I don't know that there's much you can do about that. Streamlining operations, and then there was a question at the end: why is publishing in decline? And their answer is, overall, publishing is not in decline. Combined revenue from print and digital publishing products continues to grow. However, print publishing revenue has declined as consumers' preference for online magazines and newspapers have increased. So I kind of don't understand that. Do you understand that, what they're saying? He says, no, never mind, I don't know. As a result, advertisers have also shifted their ad spend. So they're talking more about the advertising than they are the actual revenue from publishing a book. Is publishing a hard industry? Yes. Publishing is hard.
It is.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is.
You know why it's hard is because there's so many fingers in the pie.
There are. Yeah. And as far as solutions for this, my solutions for you on most of these categories is choose what's going to work for you, minimize the number of avenues you're going to take, or take them in steps and have a good plan, because there's so much it's a big chunk to take. So if you're going to do it, plan ahead and kind of figure out, when you're going to do each step of the way, and then see and track it. Make sure you know what kind of revenues did I get from that. Did it make sense to do that? So those are my short answers. I got lots of longer ones, but now
what you started off with, who is your audience?
Yes.
One of the things that is divided into about 100 different columns.
Yep.
So it's tough to find one.
Right, and that's why you have to have that plan to know which one am I going to attack first, and how long, and what kind of results do I expect. I mean, it's no different than being in business, right? You got to really plan ahead and then track and monitor what's happening so that you know what your results are.
Yep.
So, and I know you have a book, and we only have probably a few more minutes.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I give you time to share, because you have 2 books.
Well, I did the first one.
Okay, good.
On Thoreau.
All right.
This one, the name of the book is On the Fire Line, Living and Dying with Wildland Firefighters. Fieldwork Encounters and Discoveries, paperback from '09. So this is pretty old, but yet it's certainly apropos for what we're going through right now. In this rugged account of rugged professionals, Matthew Desmond explores the heart and soul of a wildland firefighter. Having joined a fire crew in northern Arizona as a young man, Desmond relates to his experiences with intimate knowledge and with native ease, adroitly balancing emotionals with analytic actions and insight. On the Fire Line shows that these firefighters aren't the adrenaline junkies or romantic heroes are so often portrayed. Actually, here it says, gripping, masterful account of how young men are able to face down wildland fires. Why volunteers for such enterprises in the first place. Okay, but what I wanted to say is this statement about the wages when these guys are away from home. I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, well, there you
Let
go.
me go over it again here. On the Fire Line, and it's by Matthew Desmond, and it was a 4.0 out of 5 star.
All right, there you go. Okay, and the book that I have, I'm going to Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. The book that I have is called One Question Remains, Your Move. It is by Robert Morse and Kelly Meggs, and they happen to be J6 prisoners that have, I guess, now been released. And I know that Robert Morse has been released because he was at a meeting as a speaker yesterday that I attended, and he talked about his book. He is, if anybody followed the January 6th prisoners and kind of some of who they were, who they were, he is called the Lego Man. And the reason he's called the Lego Man, I'm going to really make this brief. You'll have to read. You can go to his website and get more information. And his name is Robert Morse, Morss, and he had Legos when the FBI came in. They, searching his apartment or house or whatever, wherever he lived, and they came in and they found that he liked Legos. Right, lots of adults like Legos. I happen to know one, and I'm not that one, but I know somebody who does do the Lego thing. And so they went into his stuff and they found this box of Legos that was the Capitol.
Oh, jeez.
Okay? So they said, oh my, looky here. You're guilty, right? Of course, they're saying he's guilty because he's the main man. He's got this Legos of the Capitol, and he did the whole structure, yada yada yada. Well, so they go in, and he's before a judge, and I guess he was not there. It says, after the hearing, the accusations from the federal government, without my knowledge or presence, the judge responded with an astute observation. He asked the government, if what you're telling me is true, how did Robert Morse accomplish all of this if the Legos are still in the box? Ladies and gentlemen, the Legos were still in the box, unopened. Kind of hard to plan international historical event with a children's toy without even opening the box, if that is actually what happened, don't you think?
No, he was going to do it with directed energy weapon.
Perhaps. I'm not certain at this point. So I guess what I'm going to say to you is that this is insane. This is totally insane.
Being one of the few, if not the only, on the radio right now that has been arrested, I know how the legal system works. It's not about justice; it's about winning.
Well, this gentleman is from Reno originally. He grew up in Reno, Nevada. And so he came back to see his grandpa. And then at this meeting that I attended last night, he was there and he presented his, information as far as his book. And but I didn't know anything about him. We did actually interview Jeremy Brown, and Jeremy Brown is still in prison. He has not been released. They've been moving him around from place to place. And I'm not sure the whole backstory to that, but there are a number of the prisoners that were pardoned that have not been released. So I think that's important. And I think that as a community, we have to pay attention to what our government is doing and why is the prison system not releasing him. So anyway, that's my book. It's called One Question Remains. It's by Robert Morse, and then also Keggs, is that his last name? Kelly Meggs. Sorry, Kelly Meggs. And he is apparently a Proud Boy, so there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to like this. I say if you disagree with what happened, you need to read the book, because I think that you see it from another side, and then you can take your own judgment and compare and see how you feel about it, right? I mean, I just think that's important to do.
That's
my take.
This is just like I was saying about arson investigation. You have to go in with a clear mind.
Yes.
they didn't do this investigation they
Right.
went in with an agenda on what they wanted the outcome to be.
It seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah. So anyway, take a look at the book. And like I say, even if you disagree, and I get it, then I think that, and I don't have an opinion one way or the other at this point. I'm still trying to have an open mind until we get both sides of the story, because I don't think we did. And on that note, we are running up on the clock here. So another 2 hours gone, Doug. And how'd we do it? I thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's been fun, hasn't it?
Yes, and thanks to the audience. Thanks, Suzanne, for jumping in there and sharing with us. And we'll see you guys again next week.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. We'll be here. Hope you will too. This is What's the Story? Janice Hermson and Doug Ashby. There you go. All right. See you next time.
Bye.